presented by Dano's Seasoning. Yum yum, get you some.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Sun Belt Syndicate, the Week 2 wrap-up. We are going to hopefully enjoy interacting with you guys with some of your comments and questions from the games that you were at live or got to see. I know Marv was busy with some child stuff going on this weekend. Baseball and soccer, you said, right?
Yep, all the sports.
All the sport. So baseball, soccer, live and in person. You had football on the cell phone, right?
For the baseball, I coach, so no, I couldn't do that. But I
Oh.
was in between games and in between innings. I was trying to catch up on some scores, but I was very unsuccessful.
Yeah. Would be very difficult if you were. I didn't know you were doing the coaching thing. Are you the head coach?
No, not on this team. No, I'm just
Gotcha.
I'm the. If anybody's listening and their kids have played baseball, I'm the game changer dad. Don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means, but I haven't really gotten into the baseball thing yet. So explain that to the know-nothings like me.
Game Changer is an app where all the games are scored on Game Changer. So when you're in these tournaments, all the tournament directors can see what the score is. So you got to pitch by pitch. You're putting in balls, strikes, pass balls, stolen bases, ball in play, and all that stuff. And then as a coach being in the dugout, I can see as the other team goes through their batting lineup where they hit it last time, so we can shift our defense and things like that.
Jeez. So
Yeah.
you definitely cannot pay attention to a football game on a cell phone when you're doing that.
It's hard to pay attention to a baseball game when you're doing that, but somebody's got to do it, and I got voluntold, so there we go.
That's how it happens, right?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Good times. Well, before we get going too much further along, we want to thank collegefootballdogs.com for having us bring this to you guys and interact with you guys as we go along the way here. And also thank you to our sponsors listed up top for the visual viewers right now. W Energy, Fanplex Graphics, TSN Off-Road, our brand new sponsor, and Dano's Seasoning. As we continue along the way, those guys will be linked when the episode airs, and you will be able to get some discounts on some of those things. Seth actually got to try W for the first time this weekend, Marv. So he was
nice.
impressed.
Good.
Yeah, we got to get you and TJ, and we'll do a whole commercial bit on it.
Hey, listen, I've had Dano's. I think we actually have a couple bottles of that here at the house. So Dano's is good.
They just I just saw today on their LinkedIn, they're bringing out a jalapeno cheese flavor. I forget the name of it off the top of my head. I think it's kind of cheesums or jalapeno cheesums or something. I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, sounds pretty tasty. I haven't had a Dano's flavor that I didn't like yet. So hopefully that relationship continues to build upon itself, and we can get some nice flavorings on our stuff as we go for tailgate and everything.
There we go.
Yeah, absolutely. So jumping into some highlights here, highlights and lowlights, I guess, as we'll call it.
Yeah, some teams have highlights, some teams have lowlights.
Yeah, definitely a mixed bag this weekend. I don't know if anything as far as win-loss was completely shocking. I don't know. I'll get your thoughts on that too, but I'm not sure if I was blown away by like the overall win total or kind of some of the teams that lost. It was more of how some of these things happened that I was surprised with.
Yeah, no, there were definitely some impressive showings, and there were some disappointing showings as well.
Yeah. Well, we'll get right into it because starts off not so great with Memphis hosting Troy. As you can now see, Memphis is now 2-0 on the year. Troy 0-2 to start the season, which isn't really completely out of their normalcy, to be honest. I mean, think about the year. I think did we talk about just last episode when Troy lost the first two games of the year and
yes,
that one with Hail Mary?
Table, yep.
And then look where they ended up. So it's not impossible, but I would say that this does look like a different Troy team than those past two seasons thus far.
It does. And listen, Memphis is a good football team. I didn't get to watch it, just kind of looking at the stats. It doesn't look like they were completely outmatched, but just didn't have enough.
Yeah, we did get to watch this. Seth and I were watching this one at the Airbnb before we ever took off. We got to kind of watch this from beginning to end. Unfortunately, by kind of that third quarter time frame, you felt like this one wasn't really in reach. Technically, score-wise, it kind of was, but it just felt like Troy wasn't making those big, needed, necessary plays or stops to get the victory. I did think they would cover this game. I was actually surprised. I think the spread, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, it was like 19 points or something like that.
18 and a half. Yeah.
18 and a half. Okay, so I was just off, but I really thought Troy would cover this game. I didn't know if they'd win it because I knew Memphis is talented. They've got Seth Hennigan at the quarterback position. They've got a plethora of wide receivers with veteran experience, and they are one of the favorites to go to the G5 as the G5 rep for the college football playoff. But I don't know. I thought maybe Troy could kind of get into a little bit of a rhythm, surprise them. Just not quite well-rounded in their games just yet to pull off what would have been a shocker, I guess, right? I mean, you would have taken Memphis in this game going in?
Yeah, definitely would have taken Memphis. I mean, if you just did money line, of course, would have taken Memphis. 18 and a half would have been, there would have been a pull to take them to cover, like you said. But I mean, just looking at some of the stats, I mean, they were super efficient on third and fourth down. They were 10 for 17 on third and fourth down. Actually held the time of possession edge. But yeah, it looks like they just 150 yards passing, 101 rushing, 251 yards against a team like Memphis isn't going to get it done. They were down 31-7 at one point. Yeah, just not enough gas in the tank, I guess. And once again, Memphis is a good football team.
Yeah, I did say going into the weekend, I believe I said this on the show with TJ, was the time possession was going to be important. And the way I thought that they might get there was Damian Taylor had a 100-yard game last week, right? And helped them stand a better chance in that game against Nevada, which, of course, they only lost by 2 points when they missed the 2-point conversion.
Yep.
This week, he was going to have to get – I thought he was going to have to really get to that century mark or at least get very close if, maybe they start passing into the end zone. He doesn't get as many runs towards the end zone or something. But I thought he was going to have to get really close to that aspect to get this game to go in their favor. And, looking at the stat sheet, he goes for only 33 yards. He didn't even really get that many carries. So only 7 carries on the day.
Yeah, he got 7 carries.
Yeah, so a little surprising, definitely disappointing, but not shocking, I guess, like you said. I think a lot of people would have taken Memphis. There was a reason they were favored going into this one. Again, not totally charted waters for Troy as they've navigated back from those 0-2 starts in the past. We'll see if that holds true this year, but not the start that they wanted. I definitely think they're really looking at that Nevada game now as one they should have had to start with, right?
Missed opportunity, yeah. This one might be the most impressive win of the week for me. Man, that's a butt whooping.
Yeah, UTSA and Texas State. Previously, UTSA had won all 5 meetings. This is the I-35 rivalry for the people unfamiliar with the state of Texas. I mean, what is the state of Texas has a quarter of the teams in NCAA football, feels like.
Seems like it.
Yeah. But, I mean, to be fair, not the same UTSA team as they've had for the last couple seasons. They've got some turnover there, especially at the quarterback position. And really not the same Texas State team that we've seen in the last few years. Now, obviously, last year they made some strides. Coach Kenny's there. They got some players in there. They kept a lot of those guys there, even though they had the quarterback change. It didn't seem to affect them in this one. We know, I think both of us had question marks after Lamar, right?
Yeah, we did. I think this was kind of the answered any questions. I didn't think Jalen McLeod played that great against Lamar, but balled out this weekend. Just, 300 yards passing, 11.4 yards per completion. They ran for 300, or excuse me, threw for 300, ran for 200. Won the turnover battle. Yeah, wide receiver Chris Dawn, 5 catches, 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. It's a big play guy, I guess you would say. But yeah, they really impressive the way, even though if UTSA is down, to beat a team that's been good like that as handily as they did. It's a really good win.
Yeah, it absolutely was. The thing that surprised me, like you said, Jordan McLeod had a better game. Did throw an interception, but I mean, his QBR is 93.9. Obviously, that's easily make upable with what they put on the ground. Lincoln Perry was the running back of the day, not Ishmael Mahdi. That one what really surprised me. Mahdi only went for 9 carries and 26 yards, so not his typical performance. But hey, here's what I've talked about during the offseason. The running back room is very talented with Ishmael Mahdi and without, because these other guys are showing their depth and capabilities. Because you also had Deion Hankins, who had transferred in during the offseason, who gets into the end zone. Only 11 yards on the day. but his first touchdown as a Bobcat. And then Joey Hobart, who really stood out last week and was a big reason they beat Lamar, held down. But like you said, Chris Dawn explodes out of essentially nowhere. And this is the game that they wanted to have in front of their home crowd, in front of their students, to keep Texas State rolling along with expectations during the preseason. I think a lot of people started making those question marks after that Lamar score and early scare, essentially. But I don't know. When we were talking in the group earlier, now they are getting put into a spot in that college football playoff prediction a little bit more than they had been, right?
Yeah, a little premature. I want to see it, maybe string a couple weeks like this together. I think you look at the group of 5, Memphis, I think Boise is pretty darn good. I mean, they took Oregon down to the wire. They were not outmatched there at all. But man, 2 weeks in, you never know what'll happen.
Yeah. And they've got a big test right here Thursday. They don't even have a full week's rest from this huge build up to this game. They go from essentially what they were saying was they go from the biggest game in their history at home to the next biggest game in their history at home because they host Arizona State, who also comes in 2-0 on Thursday night on national TV. They just came off an SEC victory over Mississippi State. So Arizona State, coming into the season, I thought they stood a great chance to win that one because they haven't really been all that impressive over the past few years.
True.
I mean, the Herm Edwards thing was kind of a mess there, and now they're moving conferences. But this is an opportunity because if you win that and you have a Power 4 victory along with this kind of a victory over a peer group of 5 team, you really – at that point, they almost undoubtedly become the favorite unless Liberty gets beat by App State. That one's going to be a big one. But, they survived a scare over New Mexico State, I think, right?
Yeah, and they started slow against Campbell the previous week. So,
yeah,
a lot of football to be played. A lot of things will take care of themselves. But yes, if Texas State beats Arizona State on Thursday night, then they have built a pretty impressive early season resume.
No doubt about it. All right. One that I had a little fun with. I don't know if you saw me post up that video. I did earlier today, but if not, you can see it after the show's over. The Marshall Thundering Herd traveled to Blacksburg. They lose 31-14, but this game, I feel like, was closer than that score really sounds. I don't know if you kind of feel that way with what you've seen.
Like I said, I didn't get to watch a lot of football. Just looking at the stats, I mean, that was a pretty even game. Virginia Tech only outgained them by 50 yards. Both teams really struggled to. I mean, Marshall was 13 for 36 passing the ball. That's struggling. Virginia Tech 200 yards rushing, but Virginia Tech absolutely dominated time of possession. But I don't think Virginia Tech's that good, to be completely honest. I don't know. Obviously, I would have picked Virginia Tech to win the game, especially being in Blacksburg. But this isn't a lopsided loss or anything. It's like they got blown out or outmatched. It looks like it was just kind of a slow game.
Yeah, and I guess it kind of felt like that. It had its moments where, the start of that, not the start necessarily, but the third quarter had 21 points across the board for both teams combined, whereas the rest of the game didn't have that many almost all together.
10-7.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I mean, AJ Turner, once again, you're seeing that Marshall can pound it on the ground. They lose some great running backs. They still have another one somehow. So AJ Turner doesn't find pay dirt, but on 6 carries had 103 yards. That's a 17.2 yards per carry average.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
When you have a 69-yard run in there, that really helps pad that stat a little bit. That's a chunk play.
That is a good point.
Yeah, that is a big chunk play. But yeah, I mean, just like I said, it looks like they really struggled to throw the ball. Averaged 3.6 yards per completion. Earl had a touchdown and an interception, but a QBR 13.8.
Yeah, that's not gonna. I'm surprised. I thought Braylon Braxton was the guy moving forward, and he was going to be what they needed at the quarterback position. We'll see what happens there, but that performance probably isn't going to keep a role on the field a lot longer because you've got to have better quarterback. I mean, we're seeing it across the board here with a lot of teams right now. The quarterback position is the most important position on the field for a reason, and unfortunately, wasn't great in that one. Did you see the catch from Christian Fitzpatrick by chance, though?
I did not. I didn't.
It looked like Randy Moss. Just went up one-handed over the guy. I mean, like kind of like almost pushed off. If he didn't push off the guy, the hops were ridiculous on that specific play. But then just kind of like, I mean, I think even the Virginia Tech crowd, when you hear it without, social media audio, it's if you hear the real thing, like even the whole crowd's like, kind of thing. It was that impressive, really, really good. And he gets paid off, not on that specific play, but he gets paid off by getting into the end zone at least once on that Saturday. So good thing. Another, again, they seem to have a weapon at the running back position. They've got some wide receivers that maybe had some question marks on what they were going to bring into this program or to be able to do. Those are starting to get answered. Now they get the quarterback position in play. Marshall, just like we're talking about Troy heating up and getting better along the season, I think Marshall's another team that could be looking in that direction as well.
Do you know who they have this weekend?
Ooh, not off the top of my head, but I can bring it up. They have doesn't get any easier. They got Ohio State.
Ooh, yeah, that's all right.
Let's just say this though. Okay, so they start off the season against Stony Brook. It crushed them, expected to, whatever. Had they beat Virginia Tech, and then you look at the rest of this layout, right? There would be no doubt in my mind that Marshall would be the Group of 5 representative if they went undefeated through this schedule. I mean,
yeah,
it wouldn't even be close.
You beat an ACC team in Ohio State, who I think is the number 2 team in the country. Yeah.
You I don't know. Like you probably couldn't slip up unless maybe you were in your championship game and your resume was just that good. Otherwise, it's just so hard to know without knowing the rest of there's no breakdown. You're just guessing on everything. So I guess it's hard to know that.
Yeah. I mean, with a lot of good G5 teams that are competing for that guaranteed playoff spot, I think the margin of error is probably pretty small.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, let's talk about this real quick before we move on. Last year, FSU goes undefeated, doesn't get involved in the college football playoff. Yep. Liberty goes undefeated, but doesn't play a tough schedule. FSU gets hurt from literally an injury. Liberty doesn't have anything, but then injury-wise, but they get rewarded for going undefeated against the schedule that most people might have upper echelon G5 teams that were also in the mix. Yes. Had they played the same schedule, I think also go undefeated. So it's weird that they kind of did 2 different things with 2 different teams and then say they judge everybody by the same criteria, which is obviously not true. But anyways, that's why it's important to go undefeated, because it seems like at that level where they don't have as much eyes, they haven't been paying as close attention. All you got to do is win. Doesn't matter by how or by who.
Never leave it in the judge's hands.
No, absolutely not. And we saw it last year. Hopefully it doesn't even get to that this year. But speaking of something that you never want to leave in the hands, don't leave it in the hands of an FCS team that wants to beat an FBS team real bad. And we almost had that happen in Harrisonburg, Virginia, as JMU only beats Gardner-Webb 13-6. Now, this one might have been one of those ones that shocked me. I'll be honest.
Yeah. When I saw the score and then watched some of the highlights, it took a red zone stand at the very end of the game for JMU to win. Not a lot of offense. Very surprised. Not surprised they won. Just surprised they didn't win by, 30 points.
Yeah. So going into this one, I think with TJ, I was talking about the fact that it may be a more impressive victory than what Charlotte had, but I thought Gardner-Webb would score more. You know what I mean? Like it would be like the way that they matched up with App last year, Gardner-Webb did, and the way that JMU played against Charlotte, I was like, I still think that this is a kind of game where you get caught off guard by some of this stuff. I was wrong in a sense. This game was closer in the end.
Yeah.
I should have picked the defense to be the thing I focused on instead of the offense, I guess, because that defense was just bringing the pressure, bringing the blitzes. And like you said, JMU just didn't have an answer on offense, really. I mean,
no, they didn't. I mean, just kind of quick look at the stats. I mean, Gardner-Webb controlled time of possession by 7 minutes, turned the ball over twice, and it still took a red zone stand for JMU to win the game. Now, listen, a win's a win. No one's going to take that from you at the end of the season. It's a win in the win column, but slow start against Charlotte, and then to have to finish against Gardner Webb, who lost pretty much half its team when Lamb went to ETSU. I think he took what was it 29 or 34 players? I mean, it was a lot of players.
It was a lot.
So you look at a decimated FCS roster. You're at home. Didn't see any of it, but it looks like JMU's just trying to find its new identity with a lot of new faces.
Yeah. One guy to note on the defensive front for Gardner Webb was Tyler Moffitt, who used to be at App State and then transferred to Gardner Webb. So some guy, at least one guy with some familiarity there and maybe played a key role in why that defense had so much success. But I mean, that was just a natural talent thing, I guess, is what I should say, because you're coming in with a different coach, a different scheme, different players on the offense. So it's not like he was going to have all the keys of secrets to the JMU offense, because it wasn't going to be the same as last season. But did want to shout him out because he had a phenomenal game, leading the team with 12 total tackles, 7 of them solo, a sack, and 2 tackles for loss. So he continues to get it done, even against the better teams that they're facing at that FCS or from the FCS to the FBS level, I guess I should say. But yeah, shocked here for the Dukes. Honestly, this is a home game after you seemingly got slowly rolling in the Charlotte game, but by the end of that, you felt like they were getting into that rhythm, that they were going to come out and probably hammer this Gardner Webb team at home in week 2, and that is not what happened. A lot of concern there in Harrisonburg for how this game ended up, really, I guess. But
once again, 2-0, get it together. No one will remember that, but I don't think it's panic time yet in Harrisonburg, but yeah, it's got to get better.
Yeah, I think
the conference play. I mean, they're in the East. That's hard. You can't play like that in the East.
Yeah, no, it's definitely difficult to do repeatedly and get away with. But you can have a one-off game, right? Like if this was their bad game, their ugly game, and they, like you said, the win is ultimately the most important part. Speaking of wins, a team that I thought might take this one because they were getting back at home after having a great performance. Well, okay, let's say this. A great defensive performance against South Carolina. The offense needed some work there, and it didn't get shored up in that game. Didn't look a whole lot better in this one, unfortunately, because ECU's starting quarterback, Marv, did you see this stat?
4 picks.
4 picks, and they still won the game. How do you let that happen?
The picks look to be what kept them in the game. I mean, they're completely outgained on offense, 466 to 287. And listen, East Carolina's got a good defense. Their front four is pretty solid, but their quarterback woes continue. They weren't great at quarterback last year, but yeah, I think if you tell any Division I football team that, hey, the other team is going to turn the ball over 4 times while you're at home, you're going to be like, all right, we're going to win this. We're going to win this game. But listen, JMU's gritty. I'll give them that. I mean, they are not afraid to get into a very ugly game. Or ODU, sorry. ODU is gritty. They're not afraid to get into a very ugly game and hang around. But they could easily be 2-0. And, think about it. They would have beat South Carolina and ECU. Their stock will be pretty high right now as well. But unfortunately, they, less than 1 possession games both ways, and just not enough.
Yeah, absolutely stunning in the outcome after you, like you said, you see that 4 interception thing.
Yes, that's
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Arkansas State fan Ben James saying, "What's up, Dominic and Marvin? What's going on, Ben? Thanks for joining us, man. We're going to get to your team here in just a little bit."
Did we miss Artie Cat? Has he not shouted us out yet, or is he not on?
Well, putting this up a little later, yeah, it didn't do us any favors as far as getting the people to tune in. Usually, he probably sees that I usually put these up like 2 days in advance is what I try and do, and this one was up like an hour, so a little bit of a late notice there for Artie Cat, but yeah.
To wrap this one up, ugly game. 20 total penalties called in this game, 10 each.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Grant Wilson sees some time away from the starting role just to see if it sparks something. Not even so much that like when he's throwing the ball pretty well, that's not really the issue with him. He's thrown 1 pick in this game specifically. I think he threw 2 against South Carolina. I'm focusing on that one a little bit less. It's a SEC defense. We kind of know what we're getting into with that kind of thing. it was the fumbles really where it's like that's kind of you got to hold on to the ball to give your team a chance there. But defensively, man, I'm telling you, ODU is there. I mean, no one's hammered them, and you saw what South Carolina just did to Kentucky this week. They exploded on offense. So ODU, strong defensively. Some aspects of their game in the offense have been okay and good enough to win. Just the total thing. It's kind of like we're talking about Marshall figuring out the quarterback position.
Yeah.
I thought they had it figured out. I thought Grant Wilson as a veteran coming back at experience.
And they were the king of big explosive plays last year. I haven't seen them this year.
Yeah. Been saying Arkansas State a sleeper in the Sun Belt. If they're sleeping, they're deep sleeping right now because I haven't been as blown away offensively as I had hoped to be thus far. But we'll see what we get with Arkansas State going forward. But he does feel bad because now they play at number 17 Michigan, so it doesn't get any easier for the Red Wolves. But if this kind of a slow build into this dynamic offense can continue to get back to some of those forms we saw last year, in the one game where they scored 77 points, maybe we'll see something more. Speaking of video game type numbers, the South Alabama offense from last week was putting that type of stuff up. Gio Lopez, our player of the week on the offensive side, did most of those himself. Well, here's the problem. Here's one of the biggest reasons they lost. He didn't see the field as he's suffering from turf toe. He did warm up with the team, fully dressed, did not go a single play in this game. That, to me, is the single biggest factor and reason why they didn't get by Ohio up there in where's Ohio at? I mean, the college itself.
Gosh, I drive through it all the time when we go to
Athens. Athens.
Yeah. Actually, have you ever been there?
I've never been through Athens, Ohio. No.
Sneaky
nice.
pretty. It's pretty, yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. Well, maybe I'll have to go by. I don't know. Is it where is it like on the way to? Like how do you pass it?
So we've got friends that live in Columbus, so we'll drive up there a couple of times a year to see them, and it's on the way. It's maybe 30 minutes after you get through West Virginia into Ohio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right.
It's pretty good. South Alabama. I mean, listen, the backup didn't play bad.
No.
Not that they played bad, the game was close the entire time. Just not enough to get it done at the end, and now they're sitting in a 0-2 hole. And who do they play this weekend? Who does South Alabama have this weekend?
They have Northwestern State. They should rebound fine against that. That's a FCS team down in Louisiana. So
yep. And then 5 days later, they make a trip to Boone for a Thursday night game. So
yep, they come prepared there. Oof, I don't know. That one could be a sneaky good game on a Thursday, to be honest with you.
I think so too. I mean, obviously, we'll get the app here in a second, and we know they got East Carolina coming up. So I'm going to reserve my judgment on what type of football team App State has until I see them play equal talent. Yeah,
I think that's fair. And like you said, this kid, Bishop Davenport, did not play a terrible game. It's weird, though. Like, statistically, 226 yards, touchdown, no interceptions, no fumbles. His QBR, though, only 35.5. So it was the completion percentage that really hurt him there, I guess.
I mean, he's well above 50%. He's close to 60%. That's not terrible.
I don't know why that's so low then. Now, QBR, I don't know. I don't know if I fully understand why that's such a big metric.
That's like RPI, man. No one will ever figure it out.
Yeah, that's true. Good point. Because, I mean, it's not like you could say if he played well on the passing aspect, and I don't know if he got sacked a bunch of times and his rushing stats were negative or whatever, he still ran the ball
10 times for 12 yards.
12 yards. Yeah. I mean, it's not great, but it's positive yardage. So I don't know where he got dinged the most for that QBR rating, but
I think there's a lot in the country that if your backup quarterback came in through close to 60% for 226, a touchdown, and didn't turn the ball over, you'd be okay with that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Listen to this statistic, and we haven't gotten into the Louisiana teams as of yet. But the two Alabama teams, South Alabama and Troy, 0-2 to start the year.
Yeah.
Louisiana and ULM, both 2-0 to start the year. Who would have thought that coming into the season?
I-
At least with Troy and ULM. The other ones, maybe you take a chance and say, yeah, they probably could have been 2-0 or 0-2 kind of thing. I don't know. But
ULM surpassed their betting win total already in the second week. It was at 1.5 wins. And
I
they
would have taken the over on that all day. I don't know who put it that low. That's ridiculous.
heard that on another podcast this morning, and I was like, 1.5 wins. That seems really low, but it's a credible podcast, so I'm going to have to take it. But yeah, man, 2-0 for them. That's fantastic.
Are you cheating on us? You listen to other podcasts, Marv? What's going on here?
I'm sorry. I had to step out for a little while.
No, we, in full disclosure, most of us listen to other podcasts because it helps us do this one. So yes,
Yes. I spend a lot of time in a car. I have to entertain myself somehow.
yeah, there you go. I don't spend as much time in a car, but I'm trying to listen to them at work and everything else. And sometimes you just get to listen to 20 minutes and you realize I didn't finish it, whatever. Anyway, That's why we try and do this so that everybody who doesn't have time to listen to a full 2-hour show, we hopefully can wrap it up with everybody involved a little bit faster for you. All right. One of the most impressive teams, if not the most impressive team from last week, Coastal Carolina goes back home to host William and Mary. We kind of knew how this one was going to go. I did kind of feel that it would be a little bit close early because William Mary is a very good and very talented FCS team. I believe they're still ranked within the top 25 there. But Coastal took care of business. I mean, never really in doubt, 40-21 there.
Yeah. The thing that surprises me is Ethan Vasco did not have a good game. 8 for 23 for 160 yards. That's a very low completion percentage, even though his QBR is 58.8, which kind of adds to what does QBR mean anyway?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, you would expect Coastal to beat William and Mary, who was a solid FCS opponent. The ground game was going well over 200 yards in the ground game, only 179 passing, didn't turn the ball over, not a lot of penalties, pretty clean game. And between Coastal and Texas State right now, those are my two top teams in the Sun Belt.
Don't forget about Louisiana.
Yeah, we'll get to them. Maybe top three.
Yeah, and you could make the argument. Obviously, Grambling wasn't going to be something that pumped them up a lot.
Yeah,
but Kennesaw State, you just don't know whether they should or not, right? Like that was just a question mark of did they get that win? And we'll talk about it more here in a minute. But yeah, shout out to Christian Washington, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns on the day. So another running back after Braden Bennett there in Coastal to kind of lead the way. Again, like you said, with quarterback play not being quite what it was in week 1. All right. This one was a surprise to me. I pulled this one up live at the Clemson game that I was at. Yes, I was there. Whew. And you can see why I was pulling up other games as I was sitting there in the stands. This one I saw the ending of live. I was just checking scores, and I said, oh, my goodness. Georgia State cannot lose this game. Why is this game close? How is this game close? I've got to see the ending. So, luckily, I saw Georgia State pick off the last pass. Well, it was probably the last pass of the game, but they did take over with like 40 seconds left or something. Anyway, They get towards midfield. I mean, Chattanooga had taken it. I believe it was kicked out of the end zone, so they got it to 25. They made some significant progress within, I think, 2 passing plays to get to where they look like, another play or two in there in field goal range. You got to start being concerned about this game going to overtime or possibly going the other way if they don't settle for a field goal and have a shot at the end zone. Luckily, that didn't happen. Anything that stuck out to you, maybe just the score, or is there something statistically that's sticking out to you?
No, I mean, listen, Chattanooga had the lead with 11 minutes left to go in the game. That's probably the biggest, like, what are you talking about moment. I mean, statistically, no. Chattanooga moved the ball better than what I thought they would. Georgia State didn't outgame them by that much. Chattanooga did turn the ball over 3 times. So even with the 3 turnovers, that, like you said, they're kind of close to tying the game and had the lead with 11 minutes left to go. I don't know. If I was Georgia State, I would not be happy about this. That's one of those, like, you don't want to sweat in week 2 against an FCS opponent. And that had to be stressful.
Yeah, no doubt about it. it's like you said, like Chattanooga turns the ball over 3 times. I don't think there was no interceptions thrown for sure. I don't.
No, Chattanooga threw 2 interceptions and fumbled once.
Okay. And no fumbles, no interceptions for Georgia State. So again, right there.
No, Georgia State turned the ball over. They fumbled 1 time.
Oh, they did. How
Yep.
did I miss it?
1 time.
Oh, I see it.
Yep.
I got it. But
No,
no, well, they didn't turn it over. That's the thing. That's why it didn't show up. KD McDaniel fell on a quarterback fumble, so they recovered their own fumble. So they didn't turn it over. He did fumble it, but he recovered that one.
Going into the game, Georgia State was only a 9.5-point favorite.
Yeah, that was the part that surprised me. So, Georgia Tech coming in, their performance against Georgia Tech, not the greatest, but certainly not that bad. I thought it was respectable for a first game with a new head coach and tons of roster turnover. I was actually impressed, which made me believe that they might start firing on all cylinders and really roll into a nice form here against Chattanooga. Not what happened, obviously. But Christian Vallejo, I'm going to get better at saying his name because I feel like we're going to see him a lot.
I was going to butcher it way worse than that, so good for you.
Yeah, I just went for it because at some point it's just going to roll off the tongue. But yeah, I mean, I thought he was pretty impressive in that first outing against Georgia Tech. And again, did not get to see the vast majority of this game as of yet, but did see the last few minutes. And
he was 26 for 38 for 238 and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
That's not a bad day.
No, and again, it seems to be making pretty smart decisions. But here's the stat: 28.1 on QBR for that.
Yeah, I'm throwing the QBR stat out the window because it doesn't make sense.
I'm not mentioning it anymore because it's stupid. It is. I don't even know what use that could be. Because if you average them out for a season too, I feel like it's not even going to do anybody any real favors. Like QBR 100%, where a guy comes in and throws one pass late in the game or something. That's not fair. I mean, sure, yeah, he was accurate, but he didn't do anything for a length of time. Anyway, we'll move on from that one. But yeah, closer than thought of Georgia State versus Chattanooga, but they do escape there with a victory, and escape they barely did. Speaking of teams that did not have to escape, the Ragin' Cajuns go into Kennesaw State. Kennesaw State's first time ever hosting an FBS opponent in their home facility. They went in there and they were not scared. They were not intimidated by that atmosphere. They win 34-10 and are now 2-0 to start this season. A team that might be rounding back into form really well here in the West, as the top of the West, looks to have been down compared to the teams that have been up there previously, right? With Troy and South Alabama kind of falling off, Cajuns and Texas State both kind of getting back up there, or Texas State really for the first time. But anyway, specifically this game, what do you see? What did you see from Kennesaw State's known for their defense, apparently. Not really great offense.
Yeah, Cajuns rolled up 450 plus yards of offense, pretty even, 200 through the air, 258 on the ground. Dominated, plus 5 minutes time of possession. No turnovers in the game. They just were better. And if you look at it, 9.4 yards per pass, 7.4 yards per rush. Those numbers kind of get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, they dominated the rushing game from the Owls, as Kennesaw State is known. I mean, their whole team combined for just over 100 yards, 111 yards to be exact. So, yeah, I mean, they just didn't let Kennesaw State's offense do anything. So, great time. I mean, I saw KC Osai down at Sunbelt Media Days.
Okay.
That is a giant of a man there. So,
large man.
Makes sense that he had 12 total tackles in that game, kind of led the team in that regard. So not surprising to see there. But bigger aspect of this than some of that is the fact that we get another victory over Conference USA, because a lot of times people tend to think that those conferences are either equal or Conference USA is better for some odd reason. That is not the case. Cajuns helping prove that to be inaccurate. All right. Georgia Southern travels all the way across the country to play Nevada, who had just beaten Troy.
Yep.
And had played a week 1 game against SMU that they probably should have won.
Yep.
Georgia Southern had a tough first week game against Boise State that they probably weren't going to win at any point, but looked like they could for a little bit. Yeah, I think a lot of people were offensively pleasantly surprised with the Georgia Southern offense. Now, the defense is where everyone had a problem. The defense came to play here against Nevada, only allowing 17 points, and a big reason why they got the victory there in do you know what city Nevada's in?
I do not. But so if you really look at first of all, great
Yeah.
win for Georgia Southern. As an App
Mhm.
fan, hate to say it, but they were on the road after what happened last weekend. Great win. They still gave up almost 500 yards. They gave up 271 through the air, 227 on the ground. Georgia Southern couldn't run the ball very well, only 42 yards rushing, 243 passing. So if you look at the stat line, Georgia Southern gained 285, Nevada gained 498. Nevada only turned the ball over once. Georgia Southern didn't turn the ball over. Nevada dominated time of possession, 37 minutes to 22 minutes. I mean, complete dominated. But this was another ugly game. 24 total penalties for 234 yards between the two teams.
Boy.
Yeah. So that's once again to go on the road anytime you travel across time zones, a win's a win, and that's a quality win in my opinion.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And sidelines, Georgia Southern's letting us know Reno. I did look it up too. Yeah, I thought it was Reno, but I didn't want to say that'd be wrong, so I looked it up, and then obviously I see
the biggest little city in the world.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised I hadn't known that one off the top of my head since Reno's been on TV for what was the cop show from
Reno 911.
Oh yeah, see, look at this. I can't even. Reno just doesn't. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway,
by the way,
what?
Did you ever watch that show, Reno 911?
I love that show. Yeah,
hilarious.
Yeah, great times. The one scene where he's got the boots. What does he say about his boots?
I actually, all right, just kind of shows my age. In college, I actually had the seasons of that on DVD back when that was a thing.
Nice.
Yeah, I think I still have them upstairs somewhere.
Seasons on DVD. I got a couple right over there in that corner, man.
That and Chappelle Show, man, that got me through college.
Oh yeah, Chappelle Show, man. Those were the days. Now you just got to watch him do his stand up, which he's still also phenomenal at. So,
but no, this was just a great game. I mean, no points scored in the fourth quarter. Once again, just go on the road against a team that, like you said, almost beat SMU. Had already taken down a Sun Belt team. Quality win.
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of people thought Nevada would be down this year. I don't think they're really down. I think they've had a really tough schedule. You eliminate week 1 and maybe they beat Troy by more and have a different outcome against Georgia Southern. That's not to say I wanted to see that, but I think that's how good this Nevada team could be. Always seem to come out of nowhere. Again, being over there on the West Coast, they don't get as much TV time and credibility because not as many people are seeing their games. I am surprised a little bit about Jalen White not having more dominant performances thus far this season. They really thought he would lead the offense, as the running back. And, I don't know. It's just not really clicking on all cylinders, but the kid's really talented. So it wouldn't surprise me to see him have a game all of a sudden where he just really blows up and goes off because he's been kind of kept in check thus far. Okay.
Yeah, probably getting it through the air, and obviously being down last week against Boise, they probably had to put it in the air a little bit more than what they wanted to. And by the looks of the stat line here, they just couldn't get the ground game going and had to go through the air again. Didn't gain a ton of yards, but hey, you win. That's all that matters.
Yeah, very, very true. All right, we're getting back to Ben James's team here.
Another impressive win.
He says they've got Arkansas State with back-to-back special teams player of the week. Yeah, I mean, Arkansas State always has like a kicker or a punter that's immensely talented. So not too shocking there. Arkansas State also 2-0 for the first time since 2008 when they debuted for the first time as the Red Wolves. For those that don't know, previously they were referred to as the Indians. And as you know, politically correctness has come along and taken all that away. I was the Indians for one high school I split high school freshman, sophomore, and then junior and senior somewhere else. So the freshman and sophomore year, I was at a school known as the Indians. And when I went to be a junior and senior at another school, we were the Warriors, and we had the exact same logo for both.
That's funny.
And I don't think either team has changed their name. I think they may have changed the logos slightly, maybe to be something more agreeable or whatever, but I don't think either team's actually changed. I mean, the Warriors didn't really have to change. I think
No, they could have. You could always.
away.
Your first school could just be the Commanders.
Yeah, there you go.
Redskins joke. Sorry.
Oh man, yeah, that one's gone by the wayside too. He says the Red Wolves had the ball for nearly 12 minutes in the fourth quarter.
Wow.
Yeah, that's impressive. I didn't see that specific stat, but I did see Jalen Rayner go for 255, 2 touchdowns, still had an interception. So not great, but again, this is a step up from where they were in week 1, which was Central Arkansas, which again, for those of us, Marv and I talked about it. The play that wasn't a touchdown, technically, now that they've reviewed it, it probably wasn't a touchdown when it happened, but they did reward them with that. Again, there was going to be 3 or 4 seconds on the clock left, depending on what you talk about with who. But anyway, more importantly, they move on. They get a 28-24 victory over Tulsa. Anything sticking out to you specifically in this one, Marv?
Down 17-7 at halftime. Scored 3 touchdowns in the third quarter. Nobody scores in the fourth quarter, so they kind of pulled away late there. I guess if they had the time of possession like that in the fourth quarter, that's phenomenal. Sustained drives, probably would have liked to punch one or get some points on one. But yeah, like Ben said, a W is a W, and you got 2 of them. So
yeah,
and the Tulsa win's a quality win.
Yeah, absolutely. The Tulsa win, definitely a quality win, especially to keep it rolling at home. Definitely don't want to drop one at home. If you'd gone on the road to Oklahoma to play Tulsa there, a little bit more difficult for you, I'm sure. So you definitely got the home victory, and that's really going to help you along the way as you roll into one of the better defenses in all the country, just going up to Ann Arbor, Michigan to play them this weekend.
That's who they have this weekend, yeah.
Yeah, that's we got Ohio State and Michigan both on the schedule for Sun Belt teams. So,
hey,
yeah,
got to get that money.
Yeah, that's true. As Will Hall said, got to get that check. Nothing's more important than that check. As Southern Miss fans love to hear. So this one was awesome to me. Again, didn't get to see this one from start to finish, being at a game while this one was going on, but checking the score made me very, very happy. Kind of rehashed it, I think, a little bit last week. Bryant Vincent had spent some time at UAB, I think he was actually named the interim head coach, never given the full-time head coaching job or gig or title, whatever you want to call it. Obviously, now they have I just went blank on his name. I was going to say Hasselback, and that's not who it is.
Is it not?
Trent Dilfer, that's their head coach. I saw the bald guy, white guy. Got confused. So, yeah, Trent Dilfer, head coach there, who is terrible on the road thus far in his head coaching career at the FBS level. Brian Vincent, 2-0 to start the year with this new look ULM team. I mean, this is awesome, right?
I mean, just looking at stats, it wasn't pretty. Only 87 passing yards, but 2 and out on the ground. They forced 3 turnovers, held time of possession. I don't know much about UAB, what they're supposed to be this year, but anytime you play a peer conference opponent and beat them like that, it's a good win. And yeah, 2-0 speaks for itself.
Yeah, I think the thing that people need to know about UAB or thought they knew maybe was Jacob Zeno, who's their kind of all-everything quarterback. He's kind of their Armonte Edwards for those App State fans. He's kind of their Jalen Rayner for Arkansas State fans. He's kind of the guy that is going to get it done in the air, but he's also going to get it done with his feet, and he's kind of fun to watch in that regard. Kept absolutely in check. He rushed for -3 yards in this game. Obviously, sacks are a part of that, but also kept in check from that. The thing that keeps happening, the thing I keep questioning, is General Booty at ULM, and Ben made mention of his name there.
That's a first team all NCAA name right there.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about it. The problem is I can't figure out if they're kind of holding him back a little bit from really opening up the passing game. Just kind of like they don't necessarily need it, and they haven't really in these first 2 games. Yeah. Or if there's some type of deficiency there in his game, something they're seeing that they don't want him testing, the corners and the safeties, or I don't know, and I don't understand, because I thought bringing him in as a transfer to lead a team that didn't have a lot of leadership that was going to stick around after the coaching change, just like I don't know. That's the part I'm not understanding here. And again, maybe it's because they haven't really did the quarterback to win them the games thus far, but
No, they have. I mean, listen, he was 9 for 16 for 87 yards. They ran the ball 48 times, 4.4 yards a carry, which I think a lot of teams would take for 209 yards.
yeah,
Um, you know, if the ground game's working and you're up and you're managing the clock, you don't have to put it in the quarterback's hands per se. So I don't know, but that is a fantastic name.
absolutely is. And they had some pretty good defensive performances too. Carl Glass, Wyatt Williams, who won Defensive Player of the Week for the Sun Belt last week. He was not our Defensive Player of the Week because we don't focus just on teams that win. I don't know if Sun Belt really does that, but it seems like in the first week they kind of did. Anyways, they still playing very well defensively. So maybe that's the strength, that in the running game of this ULM team thus far.
5 sacks, 9 tackles for loss. That I'm going to go on a limb and say the front seven's pretty decent.
Yeah, I'd say so. Very impressed so far with ULM.
UAB could not be fantastic. That could be a skewed stat, but
True.
Once again, 2-0. A lot of teams out there would like to be 2-0.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. Speaking of teams that would like to be 2-0, Southern Miss would like to be 2-0, but unfortunately they played Kentucky in week 1. However, they get to rebound with Southeast Louisiana in week 2 and get right on that get right course because they beat them 35-10. So not much of a challenge here, but a game they probably greatly needed after week 1, right?
Yeah, I mean, get right games. So just taking a look here, not overly impressive. 306 yards total offense, 238 through the air, 122 rushing, turned the ball over twice. Actually, time of possession was in Southeast Louisiana's favor by almost 10 minutes. But once again, a win's a win.
Yeah, Rodemaker goes for 179, 2 touchdowns. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's still kind of pedestrian, and that's not what you really want to say or see during an FCS victory. I mean, this is I would probably put this game similar to the App State game that I saw against ETSU to start the year. Like, your final score looks fine, for people that didn't watch the game, you're like, that's fine. I mean, all they're going to see is this, so we're good, right? Correct. But for people that are watching that are trying to pass the eye test, you've still got a lot of question marks. You're still wondering what's happening in certain situations. So we'll see. But, wide receivers, they seem to have some guys talented there. Larry Simmons goes for 100 yards on just 5 catches. Ty Mims only gets 2 catches for 27 yards. He's kind of their Tyreek Hill kind of guy if you want to kind of go in, or somebody similar. So he's kind of that smaller speedster. But, it's still a game that they needed to feel better about everything. I just don't know if it's as impressive as maybe Southern Miss fans wanted to see. I didn't see them crowing about it much. Maybe they wouldn't have anyway because it's an FCS opponent, but
true.
We'll see. All right.
Skip the page.
Last game of the night, the game that no one wants to talk about. I'm just kidding. It was just rough from start to finish. There personally, I will tell you this. And I think, have you been to a game at Clemson?
I have not. I've been to the stadium. I've driven to the stadium, but it was when no kids were at campus. I've never been to a game there.
Gotcha. Well, here's what I'll say. And this was before the game, before it went this way. If you haven't been, we suggested the ODU fans go down and experience South Carolina, as they do tailgating right. They do a great job. Clemson is much of the same. Probably the most inviting power program, tailgating-wise, I've ever been around. Just super nice people. We'll have a video up. We got an interview with one of the guys who hosted us at his tailgate spot, literally called The Spot. Have a banner up and everything, a trailer. We did the interview right in front of it. Again, that will be coming out maybe tonight if I get to finish editing it. But anyways, just a great atmosphere if you've never been to Clemson, South Carolina. Nice little college campus. It's beautiful. The stadium is tremendous. We got to sit kind of low, but just to take in everything. Unfortunately, that's kind of where the cool and the fun part ended because everything on the field was pretty awful. No joke, Marv. I was wondering why they ran a play with like, I don't know, there was 3 or 4 seconds left on the clock at one point, and I'll tell you why this I'm not telling you exactly when this was just yet. There was enough time to let the quarter end and then take the snap from the other side, or what I thought was get to halftime. I was like, why are they running a play? Just stop the bleeding, get to halftime, get out of here. Within 2 minutes, they were back out there snapping the ball, and I'm like, that was the fastest halftime ever. What just happened? Not paying attention, I'm checking scores. It wasn't halftime. It was the end of the first quarter. It was that bad.
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding. I wasn't even drinking. I was literally drinking soda all day and all night and didn't even have any drop of alcohol. So it wasn't that I was like not paying attention. Like I literally just saw so many scores and there was so much waiting and there was so much celebrating and so much like understanding of what way the game was going to go that I just assumed it was halftime by the time it was 35-0 at the end of the first quarter.
Yeah, that was we were texting. That was embarrassing as an App fan. That was really bad. I think I added it up. Like 8 plays, all went for touchdowns. It totaled like 300 something yards. It just I think I sent you and Seth some funny tweets that I'd seen online. It's like, hey, maybe the Clemson wide receivers will start tackling themselves. That would be our best chance to stop them. But yeah, that was just. It's like you couldn't get the bleeding to stop no matter what you did. That was bad. That was besides the Virginia Tech game in 11. That's probably the worst App State performance I've ever seen. That was just terrible.
I'm still putting Virginia Tech first, not just because the score was a little worse. I think it was 66-13 on that one.
It was.
That was just like, I mean, again, from first snap to last, they were just completely outclassed. It looked like they just didn't train all week or maybe overdid it, and they were just exhausted and worn out. I just felt like, how did the wide receivers look like they were – it was varsity versus JV. Like, it was just the speed just wasn't there. I don't understand.
Listen, I don't know where Clemson's going to end up. They got some dudes, right? Like they got some big guys. I think everybody was a little down on them after their Georgia performance, but Georgia's going to make a lot of teams look really bad. They just looked on another level. Not going to say I expected us to go in there and win. To be completely honest, I bet on Clemson to cover the 16.5. But that I expect us to get beat by 46 and look as bad as we did. Not taking anything away from Clemson. They look phenomenal, but just one of those, you burn the tape, you act like it never happened, and for App, you have to hope that a bad loss doesn't bite you the next week.
Yeah. In my heart of hearts, I knew that this wasn't going to go in the way of a W, right? Like you saw the offensive line play and the lack of running game against ETSU, right?
Yep.
It wasn't going to get better against a Clemson defensive front that's still one of the best in the country. Yes, they got beat by Georgia. Again, Georgia's the class of NCAA football right now and has been for a few years, right? Like literally if they get into the college football playoff last year, wasn't it them that got left out for Bama, essentially?
No, Georgia won last year.
Oh.
Huh? No, Michigan won. Sorry. Michigan won.
Yeah. So I think Georgia.
Yes, you were correct.
Yeah, Georgia got left out, but literally had you put them in,
they probably win.
For anybody else, like sub one team out, they probably win it. I mean, that's why I'm glad we're at a 12-team playoff, first of all, and also because it includes a G5 representative for sure. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I didn't have like high hopes. I was very realistic. I just, like you said, you're hoping. I mean, come on, you can't keep it to a 2-score game within the first quarter. I mean, that was.
Dude, we give up 713 yards of offense. 713 yards. It was just, I don't know. You look for silver linings, and it's like, hey, Anderson Castle ran the ball really well. 15 Jackson, wide receiver. I think he played really
Ty
well.
Jackson. Yeah.
He played really well. No injuries. It's kind of good. But yeah, I don't know. I don't want to criticize. Here's one thing I will say is I don't think the boys look like they never gave up. Like they had fight in them till the very end. But yeah, just bad performance, bad day. I think I was texting you guys. I lost a little bit of respect for Dabo Sweeney, a guy who I had a ton of respect for going into that. I think it was kind of crappy to continue to go for it on fourth down when you're up by 5 touchdowns. You know, the Virginia Tech game, Beamer was kneeing the ball with 6 minutes left. That's classy in my opinion. I get the other side of it is, hey, we needed to get right game. We got to get some things worked out. But by the time you bring in your second string to go for it on fourth down like 3 times, it's just no respect for that. You already had enough. Just get out of there.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a Dabo fan whatsoever at all. It wasn't anything to do with this game. It was long before that. Just the way he operates and things he says is just cringy. And I don't like the fact that he just, in a way, he seems just like against the NIL and how football is shaped now. But it's like, this is kind of, you were fine with everything before these guys started getting money and getting paid. Now, whatever. Anyways, yeah. That was not a fun way to end the night. But like I said, luckily everybody around us was awesome to us. We were joking around in the stands. I jokingly got up and, took my hat off, kind of swung it around. We scored a touchdown. Everyone knew I wasn't trying to be rude about it. They were just like letting me have my little laugh because I just needed to do something. It's like, yeah, we were in a section all by ourselves, really, with no App State fans really around us.
Gotcha.
So that was why. But yeah, we were mucking it up. I had 2 students beside me, drinking heavily, but never crude or rude. And they were awesome guys to sit there and talk with and interact with. They were telling me about some stuff, with how the entrance was going to work and how this and that. So yeah, it was a great experience. I would highly recommend it to anybody who gets to go to Clemson to go do that. Absolutely. Hopefully for a night game, because that was also a cool venue to be at for night, but obviously not great for, between the field goal posts.
Yeah, that was just bad.
I don't know if we brought this.
We did this last week.
Okay. So I moved it without referencing you. And I did this to TJ too, just because I don't even remember to ask you guys about these. At some point we'll do like an aggregate one. But what do you think here? So, obviously we've got the sunny outlook, which would be teams that have been doing well or believe now that they're going to continue to do well. Partly cloudy. You've got the overcast and you've got the rainy down, not going very well. Really, yeah. only 2 teams left there for me were Troy and South Alabama, because at least the other ones have at least a recent win or something like that. Maybe you could put ODU there, but I feel like they're close. It's not like they're getting beat badly at all. They're losing 1-score games that are very winnable.
Yeah, so just kind of I'll work from right to left on my screen. Troy doesn't get any better for you. You got to go to Iowa. Iowa's going to score 15 points, which is probably enough because they have a freaking amazing defense. They'll punt more than they'll put it in the end zone. But that's going to be a very, very tough game. Once again, we talked South Alabama. You got Northwestern State coming in, probably a get-right game. Let's see. Who's ODU?
Especially if Gio Lopez goes back again.
Yeah, ODU's got Virginia Tech. I for some reason, I just have a feeling that ODU is going to be one of those dirty, ugly games where they're probably within a possession.
And it's at home.
Yes, that is. ODU has done a really good job of getting some big teams to come play there.
Yes.
Good for their AD. Southern Miss, South Florida. I just don't see them getting a win there. Georgia State's got Vanderbilt, same. Texas State, yes, you played the game that offensively that I think everyone thought that you could play. Coastal, in my opinion, best team in the conference right now until someone proves them wrong. Raging Cajuns, ULM, yeah, you get to have your sunny day, man. You got 2 wins in a row. I think you're going to get moved to the right as the year goes along. And then, yeah, everyone in the middle is just kind of a crapshoot to me right now of who are you? And App, obviously, I think we'll know a lot more about App after ECU and South Alabama. JMU, impressed with Georgia Southern's win. I don't know. Still too early, but I don't disagree with anything you have on there right now.
Okay. Well, cool. I'm glad we're kind of in agreement there. But yeah, I mean, it's like you said, with that row there specifically, that partly cloudy with most of the teams there you just named, quickly could go another direction with a good score this weekend. But we'll see. It's not the start we really wanted, but it's so funny how like literally 2 or 3 games could really turn everyone's thought process or outlook on the Sun Belt totally around. Like, let's say what we talked about this, I think a little bit. ODU beats South Carolina and Georgia Southern beats Boise State. And then we have the week we have. I think people are still going, oh, okay, pretty good.
Yeah, I think the overall consensus right now is the belt's down a little bit. And I can't say I disagree with that. I don't think there is one like just dominant team in the conference right now. But like we said earlier, Texas State, man, you beat Arizona State Thursday night at your house. They would move above Coastal in my power rankings.
I think I'd have them move up as well if that were to happen. Because like you said, that's just one of those resume builders, especially it wouldn't just be because it's a Power 4 team, but Arizona State is coming in 2-0 after beating an SEC team. That they're proving that they are a pretty talented team. Have they come in 1-1 or 0-2, obviously Texas State winning doesn't necessarily jump a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, you beat a program that's looking pretty hot at the right time. You're going to get rewarded for that. Yeah, and speaking of
Vegas has Arizona State as a 1.5 point favorite.
Ooh, Texas State, a home underdog, huh?
Well, I mean, you get 3 points for being at home, so neutral site that'd be 4.5 points, but it's not bad.
No, I'll take that all day. That student section, group of 5 guys was down there for that UTSA Texas State game. They said that student section was a big reason why Texas State probably came away with that victory. Very loud and intimidating. So hopefully they can keep that going again in a short notice, right? Because it's a Thursday night game. But yeah, we had a little interaction on Twitter about that, which is the Sun Belt down? And I said, well, if you're talking about down from last year where you had 12 teams in bowl games, yeah. You're almost assured not to have 12 teams in bowl games this year. Almost impossible. So yeah, in that regard, they could be down because I think you're going to see like half that many. You're probably going to get 7 or 8 maybe. But
yeah, I think it's realistic. Yeah.
Yeah, and you kind of want that because, like you said, you want some teams at the top to stick out, which is not really where we had last year. I mean, our top winning team technically was like James Madison.
And they were bowl. Obviously, they got into a bowl game by, default.
Yeah, by waiver.
They absolutely deserved it. They played.
Yeah.
They were the best team in the conference last year. Well,
yeah, they probably were.
I would have loved to have seen JMU Troy.
Well, that one happened at the early part of the year down in Troy, but I would have liked to seen a rematch too, to be honest with you. And because that game was a all defense slugfest that came down to the wire. So that was a fantastic. And now it wasn't one that a lot of people would have tuned into because it didn't have the offense, it didn't have all the scoring. But as far as like really good football, you were seeing it on the field in that one. I would have liked to have seen a rematch for that. As an App State fan, I wouldn't have wanted it to be the championship game, but essentially I would have liked to have seen a rematch because I think those two teams matched up really well. And yeah, so as far as being down this year, I think right now you're seeing a start that people were hoping would be better or thought might be just a little bit better, but I don't think it's really like an awful fall of any sort, to be honest with you. I think we've got 5 new head coaches. We've got a couple teams, most of those teams specifically, that have huge amounts of roster turnover. So yeah, there was gonna be some slow build this season. Now the ones where it's surprising is kind of the App States where it's not the surprise that they lost to Clemson. It was how they did it. James Madison winning, but barely over a Gardner-Webb team. These are the types of teams where you say these are the ones that people are talking about when they say, is it down? And they're talking about the top teams. They're not really talking about from top to bottom. Although, like I said, I don't think we're getting 12 teams in bowl games this year.
No, I just think the past couple of years that we've had really good opening weeks, and Sun Belt teams kind of made some noise, and you just hadn't heard that this year. And then, like, once again, I think if you look top to bottom, um, I don't think we're as good. But like you said, we're coming off a year where 12 out of 14 teams made a bowl game.
Yeah.
So maybe we overachieved as a conference the past couple of years, and that kind of set the bar maybe a little bit unrealistic. And then now that it's the P4, not the P5, everything gets kind of skewed. But I don't think the conference overall is as good as it was last year.
Yeah, well, and if you look at those 12 teams that made bowl games and you look at the record through those bowl games, you could have maybe seen this coming.
Yeah, true.
It's not like we went into 12 bowl games and won 9 of them. Unfortunately, it wasn't a great winning percentage in those bowl games. Off the top of my head, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I think it was like right above 500, barely by like one game.
That's 6 or 7, 1 and 2. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that's a little unfair to say that we're down compared to what. You have to really say like what you're comparing it to, right?
The top of the mountain.
Yeah, and like you said, you probably have the fairest comparison. Actually, you did say that, which was you had a team or two that had a big win, and that's what we don't have thus far.
Right.
In fact, I think the first one we really have at all is Texas State over UTSA, but because it wasn't a close big win, it's not going to be looked at in the same regards as like upsetting a Power 4 team.
Yeah. And I don't even know if Texas State beats Arizona State, if that's that kind of like marquee conference win, but it would be the biggest one that we have, unless somebody can go beat a Ohio State or a Michigan this year or this week.
Man, if Jalen Raynor comes back, the chain that he had around his neck at Media Days is going to be 3 times as big if they beat Michigan, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously App wasn't in the Sun Belt at that time, but it's possible.
True. It is possible. We've seen weirder things happen. I mean, Texas went up there and made Michigan look a little silly. So
Texas is they're pretty good this year.
Yeah, that's a very good point. They may be.
What
are they ranked now? Are they in the top 4 already?
I think they're 2 or 3. I think they're 3 now. I'd have to look. I don't think Ohio State's been.
That's true. They're still 2. I think you're right.
I got this pulled up right now. Yeah, actually, no. They in the AP they jumped Ohio State.
Wow.
So they're 2 now.
I think Michigan's overvalued. That's why they jumped Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, you got Michigan. This is crazy. Michigan loses to a really good team and drops 7 spots, but Notre Dame gets beat by Northern Illinois, only drops 13 spots.
Well, I think they're in order. Yeah, this is one of those things where like we got to put Northern Illinois in the top 25. Okay, so in order to do that, you have to say Notre Dame was still good, right? So that's where that thing. I don't believe either team belongs in the top 25. You're asking me. I haven't seen enough of Northern Illinois to probably say that definitively.
They didn't even receive any votes in the top 25
in week 1.
No, like the rankings that came out yesterday. Northern Illinois received 0 votes.
I thought they were at number 25. I saw maybe.
Oh my gosh, I completely overlooked them. You are 100% right. Yes, they are number 25.
Okay.
My eyeballs did not want to work as I just went to the others receiving votes. I didn't think one win would jump you from kind of relatively unknown to top 25, but yeah.
Yeah, see, that's my thing with these rankings, man. They just
ESPN storyline to do on College Game Day next week, man.
Yeah, I guess so. But it's just like you said, they literally had no votes in week 1, right? And now all of a sudden they're a top 25 team. I don't know. Anybody can beat anybody on a given Saturday if they have their best game and somebody else has their worst. All credit to Northern Illinois. I'm not saying that they're a bad team. I just don't know if they're a top 25 team in the nation just simply because they beat an overrated, almost always overrated Notre Dame team. So
it's like when Notre Dame signed their NBC contract, somewhere in there it was like, hey, well, you're always going to be a top 25 team. It's part of the contract. Enjoy it. You're going to love it. I'm trying to see who Northern Illinois plays this week.
Oh, that's a good question, because how long do they stay ranked type of thing, right? Well, they just played Notre Dame. They probably don't have another huge opponent, but maybe, I don't know.
Looks like they have a bye week this week.
Oh,
yeah. Obviously, you don't know that before the season, but man, imagine if they had a home game. That would be awesome for them.
Yeah. I would equate it to the time that App State had beaten Michigan and they hosted Lenore Ryan the following week.
I vividly remember that.
Insanity.
I was I just graduated and got tickets last minute, sat on Miller Hill, and Armani didn't get the start. Mr. Trey Elder got the start, and fantastic day.
And do you remember what the first play of that game was?
I do not.
I just remember it because it was so like, this is how it's going to go, right? So whether it was a touchback or whatever, there was no return of the ball to start the game. I don't believe anyway, but I specifically do remember exactly what happened on the first snap. Trey drops back, speedster Dexter Jackson down the side. He wasn't even touched. I mean, it was just ridiculous.
Illustrated cover boy picks up where he left off.
Exactly.
Not to go off on a tangent, this is Sunbelt Syndicate, but Northern Illinois off this week, and which sucks for them because they could probably get like out of the top 25. But
Right.
then they play Buffalo. Then they make a trip to Raleigh to play NC State.
Oh.
Yeah.
Huskies versus the Wolfpack.
Yeah.
A very winnable game because the Wolfpack look awful thus far.
But they have Grayson McCall.
Oh, yes. The great Grayson McCall. I don't think he's the biggest reason. But yeah, he's not been kind of the all everything they want. In fact, he may not be the starter by that time, to be honest with you.
Very true. I will say I was able to I was watching a little bit more of that Tennessee game than the App game at one point. Tennessee looks
Why? Why were you watching that one?
Just how close the App game was, it got me nervous, so I had to walk away for a little while. Tennessee looks pretty good.
Tennessee looks damn good, yeah. And so that, them losing or NC State losing to Tennessee wasn't really surprising or shocking, but again,
how they lost,
they couldn't keep it close. That was a thought of the NC State team was thought to be a top 25 team coming into the season, and there's no reason to put them anywhere near that right now.
Hey,
Western,
bring it back to Sunbelt though. You know who gets to play in the Duke's Mayo Classic next year?
Is that App and NC State?
No, App and UNC Charlotte.
Oh gosh, Charlotte got the Mayo Bowl.
So I think they might do a Thursday and then a Saturday, kind of like how we played ECU in Charlotte a couple years ago. And then I think it was Clemson, Georgia that played after us.
It was.
Yeah, so App Charlotte, the Duke Mayo Classic at Bank of America Stadium, which, hey, that might be the most competitive football game that gets played in Bank of America Stadium over the next couple of years. So
sure ain't going to be the Panthers. You're right. Man, they are awful.
They're bad. Hey, we keep piling up these number one picks and throwing them away. So,
yeah. No, the pick didn't make any sense. Bryce Young, I don't.
It makes me cringe every time I turn on the Texans game and watch C.J. Stroud, and I'm like,
going off.
Could have been us. But I digress. Wrap us up here, buddy.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. We will try and go back to Sunday nights for those who watched the first one. It was a little bit of a travel weekend. Again, Marv was very busy with baseball stuff wrapping up and having a meeting and everything else. So we will continue to try and do this every week and wrap it up for you before we get into Wednesday's show to preview the upcoming week. Thanks a lot for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time.
See you guys.